Happy Monday, everybody. This is Ray Flip, television beat writer for Bleeding Cool. Welcome you to the very first edition of our video review of Fear the Walking Dead. And I'm jumping into the series with the first episode of the fourth season. So I'm going to get interest of full disclosure. I'm going to be approaching Fear the Walking Dead from the standpoint of what I am, which is a new viewer. And really from the perspective of how well the show does in introducing me to the series. And the reason why I'm doing this is because one of the things I've been hearing about Fear the Walking Dead going into this season was it's going to cross over, Fear the Walking Dead is going to cross over with The Walking Dead, and it's going to be much more accessible to new viewers. It's almost going to be kind of a soft reboot, and people are going to be really impressed. So I figured it's probably the best way to approach it. I'm taking, I guess, I'm going to be my own version of Morgan. So I will be starting with Fear the Walking Dead pretty much through his eyes, which, again, I know is the way they've been billing it. So that's the perspective I'm going to be taking with this review, as I also get myself caught up to speed on previous episodes. So, again, just to let you know. Having said that, let me start by saying that of the two episodes, and if you've seen my Walking Dead finale review, you know I liked it. It's a cheap plug for my Walking Dead finale review. But I gotta say, of the two episodes, I actually got the most out of the Fear the Walking Dead Season 4 premiere. What's Your Story, which is very, very appropriate considering. One of the things I loved the best about it was it's probably the textbook way to get somebody like me to get started on a show that I'm 3 seasons behind on. And I thought they did a particularly nice job of getting Walking Dead fans into this idea of, you know, you can and probably really should be watching both shows. They really used Morgan as a direct connection flow from the Season 8 finale to the Season 4 premiere for Fear the Walking Dead. So I'm going to say right up front, even though if you haven't seen it already, there's going to be some spoilers for The Walking Dead in this, even though I know it is Fear the Walking Dead. Morgan, if you saw The Walking Dead, which you absolutely should have, is staying at the Heap now that Jadis has joined Rick and Maggie's new society now that they've beaten the Saviors. And we find out Morgan isn't the only crossover that we're getting for Fear the Walking Dead. Morgan gets visited first by Jesus, who tries to get him to come back to the community, then by Carol, and then finally by Rick. Rick's argument being like, look, why not come back and be with people who love you and care about you? You are going to end up being with people anyway. Why not come back? And it's interesting because you get a sense, and even throughout this episode, how torn Morgan is about this decision. He ends up literally physically at an intersection trying to decide whether he should stay or he should go. And there's a great scene where he just decides to start running. And you get the sense that he's running because he realizes the further I run, the less apt I am to change my mind and go back. And to be honest with you, Morgan, even if, I always have this hope that Morgan will find his way back to whatever society is being built, but for now, Morgan needs to be away for a little while. Morgan needs to find himself and get used to this idea that he just can't lose so much of himself when he loses people, because with the way society is right now, that's something he's going to have to steel himself for. So again, I thought he was a great segue line into, but I also have to give props to John Dory. From Garrett Dillahunt, and you'll see I'm using my cheat sheet off to the side to make sure I'm getting the name right. I saw the preview for the first 3 minutes, and it just brought me in dramatically. And to see the way they are connected up, Morgan ends up stumbling upon John as John is having a conversation with something that's out there, and he just tells the story, and it's so heartbreaking at the end of it. There's a moment where he just wants to say, "We fell in love," about Laura, and he stops himself. Just was a great intro, and it becomes the catalyst for how we get to know John and Morgan and how they start to bond. So automatically now, again, what they're doing is they've brought me in with Morgan. They've now introduced me to a character that, in all honesty, has very Rick-like qualities, but there's a lot of hidden heartbreak in this character that I think we're still going to see, and we see in a number of instances even in this episode. We also get introduced to Althea, who we find later on is a journalist, and it's the basis for why we've seen in a lot of the advertising, there's somebody who's been interviewing, like Morgan, for example. It's what she does, and it's the basis for why we call the episode, What's Your Story? Because that's what she asks. When she helps somebody, they owe her an obligation. The obligation is for her to be able to interview them and find out their story. In a weird way, very much mirroring what we see in The Walking Dead in the very beginning, where they would have these moments where people would have to talk about how many people they've killed, when their first kill was. but it's in a much more, I think, journalistic and historian type way. Althea, I just want to say for the record, Maggie Grace, I almost feel like I need to go back and watch Lost because I don't think I gave her enough credit for what she brought to the show and specifically to her role. Because Althea, along with John and Morgan, we know, I was introduced to 3 characters that I started to care about a lot right from the very start. And I thought it was very brave of the show to get people into it before introducing anybody who was part of the series up to that point. So what we get in this episode is we get not a lot of things going on. It's a much quieter, softer episode than what we saw from the show that just preceded it. But we do get Morgan dealing with this idea of wanting to be alone and away from people and needing to be with people. We see John, there's an ache and a loneliness, but there is a quiet honor to this man who is a trick shooter and who I love when he describes his name. He says, Dory like the fish, but with an IE. Again, there's just so many great lines he has in this that's just really amazing. And again, Maggie Grace is Althea with the humongous SWAT machine, which I'm so hoping, on a side note, Funko makes into some kind of prop, because I think it would just be great to have. But the whole, we're going to drop the turrets and just mow down all those walkers, it was just an amazing scene. It really, really was. And again, I said it during the live blog, and I'll say it again. It reminded me of the ending to Breaking Bad ×3, if you gave Heisenberg a little bit more time. But again, all in all, we learned a lot about Morgan. We learned a lot about John. We learned a lot about Althea. We learned something in regards to these white flag posts that have been popping up all over the place. I believe, if I remember correctly, Althea had said she saw one that had 51 listed. So I think there's a little bit of a mystery that's going to be going on there. What I find even especially more heartening is this idea of, now that both shows are on the same timeline, crossovers really are possible. I mean, granted, it's Georgia to Texas border, so it's not like it's across the street or anything like that. But I think we see the potential for a lot of interesting things coming up in the season. And that's the one thing I got to say about this show. This show hooked me in by the end of the first episode. As a new viewer, I want to find out more. It really, really got me interested, especially at the very end. And this is what I thought was a nice touch. This idea of, okay, we're going to cater this first episode to the new viewers or to the Walking Dead viewers who are giving the show a chance, or maybe giving the show a chance again. But we're going to give you a little something. We're going to give you a hardcore introduction to some of our main cast, which is something The Walking Dead would do. So we knew exactly, who our main players were. So we see at the end, as they're traveling along, they get stopped, and it ends up being Alicia, Nick, Strand, and Luciana, who have them at gunpoint. Well, Alicia has a really sharp object at Althea's throat. But again, great way to say, okay, guys, you're new, welcome, you're in our world, welcome to the second episode, because now things are going to start getting interesting. So, again, I thought Fear the Walking Dead, Season 4, Episode 1 did a fantastic job. I have my cheat sheet here. I want to make sure I'm not missing anything. Leland and his crew, great appropriate group of scumbags. I was shocked because I thought he got a bit originally. I didn't realize at the time, so I want to correct that it was a snake bite, but it's beside the point since walkers pretty much take care of him by the end of the episode. Anyway, Laura. John keeps referencing Laura, and my biggest fear and concern is that there might already be an answer to Laura that John hasn't accepted or maybe living under the delusion of. That's my biggest concern. It's especially heartbreaking when he's going and asking if Morgan has seen a woman. I believe it was Morgan he asked if it's seen a woman with a pearl-handled gun similar to his. Again, it's like a ticking time bomb of heartbreak that is just waiting to happen. And again, you get this out of the first episode, so very impressed. Morgan is very hesitant to give an interview at first. Then when he finally does is where we see he gives the rundown about the war he had just left and the reason why he's leaving and the reason why he doesn't want to be around people. It's because his thing is, I connect with people, I lose them, and then essentially I go off the rails, I go off the deep end because I can't handle it. So he's doing it to essentially feeling like he's fighting his need to care for others because of the heartbreak and the hardship that he's had to deal with afterwards. We got that all leaving with number flags, Morgan interview. Morgan with the gentleman in the beginning that he sees it later on at the end of the road that he tried to help. Again, I don't think that necessarily helped Morgan's mindset of everybody I get in contact with ends up dying. This extends, I think, from his whole Angel of Death belief that he had going back to the Walking Dead episode over the last several episodes. And then I guess I guess I'd have to say it overall. I'm looking forward to the second episode. I gives me a week to really catch up, and I give Skybound a lot of credit for coming up with some very cool stuff to kind of get new viewers up to speed. But I see a lot of promise. I see a lot of old school Walking Dead in this first episode, and so again, I don't want to overpraise it, but the best compliment I can give is this. As a new viewer, at the end of it, I didn't think this is just too much for me to get to know. I don't think I'm going to do it, so, okay, fine. It makes me want to find out the backstory before next week so I can have a little more understanding of each of those characters. So I'm really, really looking forward to it. So again, I would say Fear the Walking Dead Season 4, Episode 1, I thought was just a quality across the board. As an intro, as a start, as a new viewer, I would give that a solid 9. Easily. Just was really, really impressed with it. So again, guys, my name is Ray Flip. I'm television beat writer for Bleeding Cool. We're going to be doing Fear the Walking Dead video recaps and also live blogging. We started it this past Sunday, and we're going to be continuing it for the next several Sundays. Also, as you can tell from my shirt, very excited. I don't know how to straighten this damn thing because I don't know how to look at the camera. But also very excited we're going to be doing live blogging of Preachers Season 3. So I'm essentially committing my soul to AMC from now until I think maybe a 2-week break before Walking Dead returns in October. But guys, thank you very much for joining me. Hope you're enjoying these reviews. Make sure you check out bleedingcool.com for all the cool pop culture coverage that we do, from film to television to video games to collectibles to fashion and everything and all things in between. So again, check us out, bleedingcool.com. And guys, have a great week, and I will see you online. Take care.